Okay, so we're gonna be making magnesium anthracene THF, THF, and so I prepared the glassware and the magnesium powder for the reaction, pre-weighted. This is 6.6 grams of magnesium. This is a Chem Glass thick-walled reaction flask with a pretty big stir bar. The reaction is heterogeneous, so we want to have a huge stir bar to really allow for the reaction to stir. And okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to add the magnesium powder into the flask and activate it. There are several ways to do that. One of which is adding dibromoethane, which is what I'm going to do. And so after I add a few drops of dibromoethane, I'm going to let the magnesium stir for half an hour, and then I'll be adding the anthracene and the THF to this mixture. Okay, so there's the dibromoethane.
So how much dibromoethane do you add?
Like 4 drops. It's important to have enough of it, otherwise I noticed the reaction does not activate, does not initiate. So I don't weigh it out, but if you don't have enough of it, the reaction just will not initiate. And it's also important, I found that it's good to stir the magnesium like this, dry. There are many ways, as I said, that one can get the magnesium to activate, and just mechanical force alone is one. Okay. So I'll just let this go for, maybe I'll actually add a little bit of THF. Just to allow for better stirring and okay. This is a tiny stir plate, and so it's sometimes difficult to find the sweet spot where, okay, awesome.
Great.
Okay, so I'll let this go for half an hour. And meanwhile, I'm bringing in anthracene and have it ready to add to this mixture.
How much anthracene do you bring in?
60 grams. This is this is on a 60-gram scale of anthracene and 6.6 grams of magnesium.
All right.
Yeah. Half an hour, the magnesium with a little bit of THF and dibromoethane have been stirring. And now I brought in the anthracene from straight from outside the box, and I'll be adding it to the reaction flask. So it's a really nice, simple synthesis for this magnesium anthracene to THF compound, but the success of the reaction is in the details. So it is important to have clean anthracene, fresh magnesium powder, activate the magnesium, make sure that it initiates. So all these are very important. The reaction can fail in many ways.
And it does.
Yeah, and another very important detail is, well, I'll show it to you next as I set up the reaction in the hood outside the box. But for now, I'll just finish adding the 60 grams of anthracene. And THF. I really like this chem glass flask. No, they don't pay me to advertise, but for heterogeneous reactions like this one, it's really convenient. You can heat it up, it holds pressure, and at the end, it's pretty easy to get the product out of the flask because of this large mouth. So with this tiny stir plate, it probably is somewhat challenging to stir. There's there are a lot of solids. I should add a little bit more THF. Okay, and I will close this flask. So the cap, as it comes, actually is not sufficiently wide to seal well on the flask, so I always add Teflon tape just to make sure that the cap actually does seal well.
Additionally, there's an O-ring that
Yeah.
should help to seal the flask.
Yeah, well, so it has to be really well tightened. And additionally, I will tape it as well. This is these caps can leak, so it's very important to have both enough Teflon tape and this black tape, just as an extra precaution. Okay, so here it is. I'll take it outside and we'll get this going.
All right.
All right, so here we are in a hood. I'm gonna clamp the reaction flask. It's now very important now to have good stirring, which is pretty difficult if you look at how much solids there are in there. Anthracene is actually not that soluble, and so if you look at the thermometer, it's showing 55. It is very important not to heat this reaction too high. Too high means above 65. Otherwise, essentially the synthesis fails. Okay, so if this works well, in about 12 hours or so, we should have a lot of bright orange solids, and the supernatant is green, deep green, which is the color of the anthracene monoanion. Okay, so now this is good stirring. I'm going to be checking on it to make sure that it stays as, stirring well. Probably will increase a little bit the temperature, seeing that the flask is not completely immersed in this oil bath. But aside from that, yeah, I don't want to lower it too much because then the oil bath itself is not going to be stirring. So if it does not activate, it will remain this color. And if it is heated too high, then it turns, well,
Black.
or various shades of green.
Yeah.
So we'll return to the reaction in about 12-15 hours. Okay, so it's been about 14 hours and our magnesium anthracene has been stirring nicely. The temperature stayed at 55, and as you can see, there's a bright orange, beautiful precipitate that was formed. And so right now I'm gonna remove the reaction flask from the oil bath so that the oil can drain and the reaction flask can reach room temperature, after which time I will bring it inside the glove box and collect this beautiful precipitate. And so note that when the reaction settles, which it will if I stop the stirring, there's a green supernatant. It's not very deep this time, and so I guess it can vary from reaction to reaction, but it can be quite deep green. But yeah, this is magnesium anthracene THF. Okay, so I brought the flask inside of the glove box, and you can see the supernatant is deep green. There's orange precipitate, and I'm going to filter it. I set up the filtration flask with this huge coarse frit, and we're gonna isolate the material next. Let's see. All right. So we used excess anthracene because I want to make sure that there's no magnesium powder unreacted. And so I'm going to wash the precipitate with a lot of THF to get rid of that excess anthracene. So the filter flask has a stir bar in. I'm going to open the vacuum and slurry this. Okay, so you see, it's pretty cool actually. You see the separation between the orange and the green. So I like to do it on the scale because I'm using a lot of magnesium anthracene, just THF. But you can scale this down, and it works equally well. Okay, so I'm gonna use some THF. Yeah, magnesium anthracene THF is sparingly soluble in THF, so it allows for its isolation this way. Alright.
It's not too soluble in anything in particular, but...
That I tried,
yeah,
or that I know of. Right.
It's nice for purification reasons.
Yes, and you know, this is the monoanion, so that one is soluble, and that is pretty great. Okay, so I'm gonna also wash this with some ether. You can see already that the filtrate is no longer deeply green, but my filter flask is full. I'm gonna transfer that to the, just for space reasons. Alright, so now I can fit some ether in here as well. And now I'll just let it dry and transfer it to my bottle of magnesium anthracene THF. So,
How light sensitive do you think this compound is?
it's not really light sensitive, I don't think so. But I do like to keep it in a bottle that is protected from light. And I tape it well to make sure that it doesn't decompose over time. So,
Just as an added precaution.
yeah, I have not noticed it decomposing upon exposure to light. So I'll just leave it under vacuum now. The shades of the magnesium anthracene can change easily from sort of pale orange to deeper orange, and so as it dries, you see the top is a little bit less orange, and if I scrape it, you can see the color, the bright orange color again. Anyway, I'll let this dry, and then I'm gonna collect it and weigh it out, and that's gonna be it.
Great.
This is the magnesium anthracene THF dry. It's a nice orange powder, and we got a lot of it. The typical yield of a reaction is about 90%. So on this scale, we got about 100 grams. And I'll be storing it in this container, which is protected from light. Anthracene, well, they're